But what I want to talk to you about today is, I guess what's associated with that is that we have quite a vision of how to see the future of diabetes care, and also we're quite passionate about bringing forth that change. So I'd like to share the next few minutes with you, telling you about LARA Diagnostics and our views on the matter. My name is Louise Warme, and I'm a medical doctor as well as a fellow in clinical innovation. I'm the CEO and co-founder of LARA Diagnostics. So every 30 seconds, a lower limb is lost to diabetes somewhere in the world, and this need not to be the case. And this is a statement that's made by the International Diabetes Federation, and really this is all about what we do. So there are about 415 million diabetics in the world, and half of those will acquire a nerve injury called peripheral neuropathy. Half of those will have no symptoms whatsoever. Peripheral neuropathy is not only a very long and complicated word, it basically means a nerve injury to any nerve outside of the central nervous system, and it can have a lot of causes, but today we're going to talk about diabetes. Patients generally present with pain, numbness, they have an increased risk of falls, fractures, but that's really important, and what we heard beforehand is the risk of development of foot ulcers, which may lead to amputation. And before I go into the slide, I want to tell you how important this is. Not only is it every 30 seconds on a global scale, it's actually the major reason for amputating people in Sweden, and it's the same in many of the developed countries. So in order to prevent this, we need to find the injury at a decent time frame where it's possible to take actions. And the means of doing that today is this. It's a tuning fork. It's been used since the 1700s. And how it works is that you'll start it off like this, and you put it on the patient, and you ask them, can you feel this or not? And if they tell you they can feel it, it means they do not have a severe injury. And if they'll tell you they can't feel it, it means they have a severe injury. But it doesn't locate early on injuries and not the moderate injuries, where most of the preventive actions can be taken. On the other end, there is really good diagnostic methods called computer-assisted quantitative sensory testing, and you don't have to remember that, but it's basically a more advanced system that has a graded stimuli which tests vibration, which is a mean of large fiber function, and the sense of temperature, which is a mean of measuring small fiber function. If you want to get nerdy about this, find me later. All I want to say is that the great methodology is very unavailable. In Sweden, a very small percentage of diabetics get to go there, and if so, the referral times are about a year. Whereas the tuning fork has very widespreadness throughout the whole healthcare system, but does not quantify the means. So it's really hard to find them early, and it's hard to follow a progress until it reaches a very late stage. The results of this is that about 67% of peripheral neuropathy is underdiagnosed, and the numbers are even bigger if you look at the small fiber side. Several studies indicate that between 40 and 85% of amputations could have been avoided, provided that they were identified at an early stage and the right preventative actions were taken. Today, there is no method to quantitatively diagnose and monitor the nerve injury in real time, and no way to find the small fiber diagnostics available all over the healthcare chain. So what we want to talk about today, and what we really believe in, is the need to improve the preventive care. And we think, on a depressive note, that we cannot manage the healthcare economics as they look right now. And if there is a lot more diabetics and a lot more foot ulcers and amputation, it's going to be very hard to find the means of preventive care. So now is really the time to put in the measures on the preventive side to not put the huge economical burden in the future. And we also need, in order to do that, to identify the patients at risk and prioritize resources, because we can't really do this with everyone today. So what we decided to do was to rebuild this advanced technology into a handheld unit for screening measures that would suit the whole healthcare chain. And this is what we've done. This is what the product looks like today. It does perform small and large fiber analysis, which allows for screening and early detection of nerve fiber function. And it can also support the decisions of clinicians and also evaluate any treatment that's given. Something people request is the monitoring and following up of these patients. And it also allows for all the examinations to be harmonized, so you can compare one examination from one end of the healthcare chain to a different kind of specialty a year later, and they will still be comparable. It's integrated with digitalized healthcare, but I will get back to that later on. What we did is that we decided to talk with basically anyone who'd be involved with our product and ask, what is your main problem? So the patients we talk with, they say, well, I want to feel empowered. I want to have the right to know is something that comes up quite frequently. I want to know if I'm at risk or not. The healthcare personnel, and I can say this because I'm a medical doctor myself, but they find it quite hard to make a good assessment based on a tuning fork, because it's a very rough mean of finding a nerve injury. So they ask for a more quantified and fine-tuned decision support. I just want to mention the society side as well, where it's generally mainly about to prioritize resources and, of course, lower numbers of ulcers and amputations. I want to take a few minutes to talk with you about tech-supported care. It's something that's been mentioned here today a lot, and I'm really happy to hear it. When it comes to the diabetes side, there's a lot of interesting projects going on where you measure blood glucose, long-term blood glucose, insulin, trends analysis, and all that. But as far as I know, no one is looking at, so what are the complications for the patient? And if you want to put numbers on this, these are the 4 major diabetes complications. It's possible to put numbers on kidney problems, on blindness, on cardiovascular problems, but there are no quantitative means to follow the amputation side. What we believe is that we're the missing piece in that puzzle, so that the future systems will look more like this, where you can not only have the blood glucose and trend analysis, but also patient-centered care, where you can see what effects does the other analysis actually have on the patient as far as complications go. On the market side, this is a total market assessment based on units. It's a total of $530 million US, or about 4.4 billion Swedish. But I want to mention here that if we can add this to a tech platform, we can develop very interesting business models adding on top of this. So tomorrow, as you all know, diabetes is exploding at this point. There's 415 million today, but it's estimated to be 642 million in 2040. And with that, the needs of better care and prioritized care are going to increase as well. On the competing side, there are a few people who have addressed the same problem, but only a few do combined testing. Come find me later. I'll talk about why we do that. And we're the only device that is actually truly portable, that does not need a plug-in to the wall. So it's very available, and it also is the only device that has a full connectivity to any platform today, which we have just recently verified. But I think this is what we should bear in mind, that this is the true competitor, and we would love for this not to be standard of care. It would be fantastic if we could move on from the tuning fork to a more advanced system. The team behind this is myself and my colleague Rachel, who is the product developer, and Torbjörn Andersson, who is our senior business advisor. It's just, the team has just expanded, but I won't be talking about that now. We did have about 50 healthcare personnel giving their input into this to develop something that would work for the whole healthcare chain. And today, we're quite excited. This is the first statement we're doing that we're actually going to start looking for a partner. We brought the prototype into first clinical testings that are actually ongoing, and we would love to find a bigger partner who would help us bring this out to a global market and help us make these massive effects that we think this product can make. If I've kept my time frame and everything has worked and we've had this analysis out everywhere, we could have saved 16 feet while I've been talking. And that's all I wanted to say for now. Thank you.
Jättebra, tack. Okay, what's that? It's like 16 feet, it's 7 meters. Any questions? Yes, there is one.
Just a quick question. Do you have any results from the clinical evaluations?
Not that we can share today, I'm afraid.
And how do you what patient do you screen? Because this is diagnosis before something has actually happened. So
exactly.
Is it all diabetic patients that see a doctor, or how is that?
Yeah, what we're doing now is we have it at a diabetes clinic for testing. It's not clinical testing, it's more an evaluation with the workflows to make sure it works as we wanted. But we are in the starting of clinical testing as well. And
if you get this diagnosis early on, are those preventive methods, do we know that they give a result?
Yes, that's a very good question. That's actually the most common question we get. Yes, but it's not as cool as a pill and then it's fixed. There are preventative methods as far as foot care, patient education, the surrounding team collaboration, and you would think that wouldn't have such large effects, but it's repeated all over and over again in studies that the effects are about up to 85% in amputation reduction, which is absolutely impressive.
Okay, so there is a drive to really do this because there is something you can actually do once you detect it. That's
definitely.
Yeah.
And also, as I mentioned before, it's very important to prioritize who needs these resources. As for today, almost everyone gets the same treatment, but our opinion is that in the future everyone can't. So what we have to do is more of a screening where we identify this is a patient at risk. We possibly know symptoms, but definitely a patient at risk. And then that's where we need to put the resources. I mean, if you get a foot ulcer, the patient costs about 5.4 times more or something, and that's even before amputation.
So if you succeed, Keith will be out the job. Think about that. Any further questions? Yes, down here.
Hi there. How does the device actually work? I didn't capture that.
Yeah, no, I didn't speak much of it. I was given a very short time frame. Now I will take it. It works very much like an audited test. So what we do is the same as the advanced technology. We send out vibration and temperature stimuli at different rates, you could say. And then when the patients identify them, they go into an algorithm compared to normal material. And you get sort of a landscape of which type of nerve fiber is injured, and is that on the small fiber side, on the large fiber side, is it both?
Hi, my name is Margareta Valentin, and I'm sitting over here. In Sweden, we have a lot of funding when it comes to development of nice, cool devices and stuff. It comes from Vinnova and other places. How are you funding the scaling going into business? In UK, there is this fantastic SBRI providing funding for the scaling part. How are you solving the scaling part and going into business when it comes to funding here in Sweden?
Okay, well, thank you for that question. It's something we're looking into at the moment. We have a couple of investors who've been knocking on a door, but as mentioned before, we would love to do that in collaboration with a larger company instead, because we think this needs to go global quite quickly to have, you know, the big effects. So that's the track we're starting today.
Okie doke. Thank you, Louise. Good luck.
Thank you.